Kathy. Welcome to my channel. I talk about beauty, fashion, luxury. Today we're going to talk about lifestyle. I want to give you a more in-depth rundown of the IKEA Pax system in my closet, what I used, the pitfalls, the advantages, what I liked, what I loved. Let's get started. Initially, what got me interested in the IKEA Pax system was seeing it on Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Once I decided that I liked this actual system, I watched probably 15 YouTube videos about how to do this, and I'm sure that's why you're watching this. So for me, that's the first thing that you need to do. I recommend get as much inspiration as possible, watch as many YouTube videos to get an idea of what the system is capable of. After you do that, I think the actual real first step is to measure. Measure, measure, measure. Did I say to measure? Remember to measure. I had to measure the length and the width of the room, and also the height. The IKEA Pax system comes in a variety of widths, heights, and depths. So it's a good idea to know the size of your space and the constraints you have. So after you've measured the size of your room, you need to take inventory of what you actually want to store. For me, I knew I was going to be storing shoes and purses in this space. So that allowed me to actually cut out some of the options. The IKEA Pax system comes in two depths, 13 inches and 23 inches. 23 inches is well suited for storing clothes. I wasn't going to store clothes. So I was able to say, okay, I'm not going to do the 23 inch depth. I am only going to look at the 13 inch depth. So that worked out perfectly for me. I also made one big mistake in terms of height. My room is 9 feet. I initially bought the taller unit and it fit well in the room. I had plenty of space. They tell you you need 15 inches of clearance. I had that approximately. I may have had 13, but because my room was so small and I was planning, if I had planned to just have this whole room be a closet, the super tall units would have been perfect. But because it's a half office / closet, it ended up feeling like everything was kind of closing in on this side where the other side is very open and free, and it felt weird personally for me. So that's one thing you really have to take into consideration. I also had to take into consideration the number of shoes I own, and you don't know how many shoes you own until you actually have to count them, round them up. For me, they were in my main walk-in closet, but also they were in my coat closet. So once I got everything together and saw how much I needed, it also increased the numbers of cabinets, because at first I thought everything was just going to fit in maybe one cabinet. I took inventory and I realized, oh, I may need more than one. My shoes have even kind of spilled over into here, kind of encroaching on what the space that I thought was going to be strictly for purses. So now I've kind of gotten to the point where I have things mixed up. Purses, I do have some purses, I do have some shoes. It's still not done. It's definitely a work in progress. Start purging, start selling items if you want to do that also, so you have an idea. The good thing about the IKEA Pax system is it does allow you to grow. Taking inventory is so important because you don't want to buy too little or too many cabinets. So now comes the planning stage. I actually planned my system on paper first, just a rough draft, but then I went to the IKEA Pax planner tool, and you can just find it via Google. The IKEA Pax planner tool allows you to pick from pre-configured units or design your own. I chose to design my own. Now it starts you off in a room where you can pick dimensions. So I already knew that I was going to be using the smaller depth and smaller height units, so I was able to filter in the tool. I also knew I was going to be doing white, and I did filter, and it left me with the available options. I then loaded the system of what I initially wanted without the accessories in the tool. So after I set up the frames, I then went in and added interior pieces. You're able to add drawers. I added 4 drawers and shelves. So this is the final unit that I made. You can play around with it. I really like the tool to help you visualize. It allows you to add in clothing and other items if you're interested. So I think I'm pretty much done. The good thing about the tool is it tells you how much your configuration is, and then it's time to finalize. So once I finalize my design, it gives me a pretty good listing of all the items I'm going to need with the quantity and the price. And this will allow me to go to the next step of ordering. So when it's time to order, you have two options. You can either order you can either order online or you can go into the store. For me, I chose to go to the store just because I didn't want to pay for delivery. I also was noticing that the inventory was slightly different online than it was in store. So when I was able to order most of my things in the store the first time, but there were a few things that were sold out that I had to come back to the store to get. So the fifth step in this process for me is assembly. Whether you ordered online and had it delivered, or you went to the store, bought it, and brought it home. IKEA is really good. If you buy it in store or online, you can also pay to have TaskRabbit install it. And I think for most people that's going to be the best option. I think it's only like a couple $100, which is great. For me, I wanted to do it myself. Don't ask me why. So I had friends help me bring the boxes upstairs, but I took all of these boards out of the boxes and assembled it myself. I will say it was definitely a learning process. I had bought one other shelf. This shelf is 39 inches wide. I had purchased another one, but it was taller, and that was the first one I assembled. There was so many problems when I assembled that. I had problems with the back, then I realized it was too tall. I just made a lot of mistakes. First step for me that I should have done, that I would recommend, is whatever room you're going to assemble it in, take everything else out. It's better to assemble in the room so you can stand it up or do whatever you need to do versus assembling it outside the room and bringing it in. Because I did that with one and it was harder. I recommend you do anything that you have in the room, whether it be an office or that is close by. If your room is 20 by 20, you'll be fine. But if there's anything within like a 10-inch, my room is basically 10 by 10. If there's anything within that realm, then I say move it out of the way. If it's possible, move everything out of the room, because especially if you're doing a lot of these. If you're doing a whole build out, it's gonna be a lot of space. If you are willing to do it by yourself, it definitely saves money. The reason I did it was I wanted to keep my budget low. I assembled this late last year during a very slow time of the year for me, so it was fine. You know, I did my work, but you know, during times I had to, I was able to assemble. And once I did the first one, I made a mistake with the first one, but it was also too tall. I was able to go back to the store and get everything I needed. So the assembly of the first successful one allowed me to be more confident and faster with the second. So I like doing things with my hands. I'm a DIY person. So if you're a DIY person, this will be totally up your alley. If you hate DIY, I recommend you get TaskRabbit or somebody else to do it. I also did it by myself. I don't recommend that. They say you should have a second person. There is one person that can do the way the assembly usually goes. Is everything is done on the floor, and then there comes a certain point where you stand the units up, and then you either can finish the assembly or you can do all of the assembly on the floor, but there comes a time when you lift it up and you need a second person. And I didn't have a second person at the time, so I had to use other pieces of furniture as I was to help me lift it up. 0 stars, do not recommend. So make sure if you do, you have somebody that you can call at certain points when you do need that second hand. But it's definitely doable with one person. There were some things that I had to learn about the IKEA Pax system even after it was assembled. After it's assembled, they have feet and that anchor it to the floor. I basically anchored it to the floor and then I moved it. Don't do that. Once you have it assembled, do not anchor the feet to the floor until you know exactly where it's going to go. So play around with the layout, get everything where you want it to be. And once you figure that out, then I would say go to the feet and just screw that part in, and you're good to go. One of my feet I actually broke because I anchored it to the floor and then decided, let me move it a little bit, and that's not the move. Don't make my mistake. Luckily, these cabinets are relatively cheap. The actual cabinets are about $90 each cabinet. It's the accessories and other things that are expensive. So let's say I decide to move and or something else happens to that cabinet. I don't feel so bad about fixing the cabinet. I am going to lose the $90 and the time spent, but I can get another one and just keep my accessories and reuse that. And I think the accessorizing of it is actually what takes up a lot more money. So the final step after you've assembled everything is to organize and arrange. As I mentioned, I have 3 cabinets. These 2 are 29-inch wide, 79-inch height, 13-inch depth. This one is 39 inches wide, 13 inches deep, 79 inches high. Once I had all of these 3 cabinets assembled, I then went and started playing around with how I wanted things to look. Each cabinet has holes on the side that allows you to create the shelves in whatever space you want it to be. So I already knew that I knew I was going to put boots on the bottom, and then everything else was going to be built up based on that. And you know, it wasn't until I started playing around with some that I figured out the spacing. Mine has, I think, 7 holes in between, and I like the uniformity. Well, it's all about what you have door. So maybe if I got to the point where I needed more space, I might break from this, but I like it so that it's, you know, even though these are 2 cabinets, it lines up this way, so it looks like essentially it looks like I have one 60-inch cabinet and one essentially 40-inch cabinet over here. At one time, actually, when I first got this, and I'll put a picture up. When I first set this up, I actually did not have this shelf. I had purses here and things like this. I would say be flexible. I came up with a plan. I arranged things, but if I can probably show you at least 5 different iterations of what this shelf has looked like, and I think it will change as my collection grows. There's some shoes that I'm trying to sell. As things sell, things will change. Actually, I even changed the boots. My boots were had a little bit more room, but when I got some combat boots, and the combat boots were so high that were the highest thing in my boot section, so I had to bring that down and make my boot section a little bit bigger, and that also had me make this a little bit bigger. You know, just be flexible. For me, I have everything arranged by color. I'm OCD like that. Everything is basically from light to dark. Boots on the bottom. And I try to group shoes that are similar together. I say go with whatever looks good. Even sometimes I will arrange something, I will look at it and realize, I don't like the way that looks. So I'll change it. This best thing about this system is flexible organizational tools. So that's my favorite part about it. I would say don't feel like you're done. Like, even though this is the final step, you're not going to be done, because this thing is going to change. I know people who actually change their IKEA cabinets seasonally. So during the winter, the boots are in the bottom ideally, but if, let's say, you're one of those people, you have enough room in your basement, you could take all your boots and put them downstairs or somewhere else. I could reclaim 2 to 3 shelves down here for sandals, because I know currently I have a bunch of sandals just like in bags, but if I wanted to display my sandals, I could do that. I haven't decided what I'm going to do when the seasons change, but because of the flexibility of the system, I can do that. Another thing you can do is, although you see these holes, IKEA does allow you, they sell an insert where you could, you know, basically patch up all these holes. I don't recommend that if you're a person like myself who knows you're going to be changing. I've seen people who build it into like make this into an actual walk-in closet and want everything to be fixed. If that's how you're gonna do this, then I say go ahead and do that. It's a lot of work to close up all these holes. So for me, because I know it's gonna change, I know this is probably gonna, if I do another tour of my closet in the summer, this is gonna look totally different. Even color-wise, things may look different. So I wanna allow myself the flexibility, and I just deal with the fact that there's little holes everywhere. But other than that, I've been very happy with the system. The IKEA Pax system also has doors. I didn't need doors just because I wanted to be able to visually see the shoes that I have. If this cabinet was in my bedroom, I might have put doors on it, and you know that you can also put mirror doors on it. There's so many things you can do. Because of the needs I had in my office where I wanted to be able to see the shoes, this is the route I decided to go. I've been very happy with this, because before I would sometimes forget I had shoes. Now I almost never forget I have a shoe, and because I put them in color, I know if I'm getting dressed and I'm like, you know what, I think a black strappy sandal is what I need. I know where I'm going. So this has been super helpful. Now I don't forget about things. The only other thing that I was gonna do was I was gonna actually get another cabinet for my sneakers, but I decided not to do that. I decided to create a sneaker wall where I'm using like Container Store large drop front boxes for those, just for storage. I had initially planned to buy another cabinet and put it on the other side of the room next to my desk, but I've decided to go with a different solution. Hopefully this has been helpful. So I will leave all of the dimensions of the cabinets and the accessories in the description. If you have any further questions, leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell for the notifications to let you know next time I upload. See you next time. Bye.